Hello? Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. It seems as if there's problems with Caroline's audio, and we did test it just a few hours ago, and it actually was working well. So I have no idea what's wrong now. Caroline, you're not managing to come back on, right? No, it doesn't look like it. Well then maybe let me do the first welcome, since it seems not possible that Caroline is doing it. Welcome everyone to the SENS XLS coding seminar or webinar. It's the first time that we are actually doing this. And it was based on requests that we had received from survey managers that were interested on learning more how to code. I know that Caroline had prepared like a little background history. Caroline, you want to put on the slides? You maybe just type in the chat window if you're thinking that you'll be able to come on for the little history. No, I think it doesn't sound like it. Okay, maybe in the meantime, until we see whether Caroline can sort out her audio, maybe we can take a quick round of introduction of everyone. Maybe you can tell us who you are, where you are currently, and when was the last time you actually used anything related to mobile data collection. And one more thing, I think the people not talking, it would be great if you could mute yourself just so that the audio doesn't get clogged up. Okay, I have right now Millicent at the top. Do you want to start, Millicent?
Yeah, so it's afternoon here. So Millicent Kavosa, been in Gambela and DRC secondment since 2014 April, and we're actually running a survey now. We've completed the data collection in 5 camps out of 7. So we have 2 camps left. So I'm glad to be part of this session so that I'm able to learn more. Thank you. So it's Ethiopia Gambela. Yeah.
Thank you, Millicent. The next on, if I go down the order, would be Mulugeta.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Sorry, I just worked it out. For those people that have messaged to say that that you're having difficulties with the audio, you should go. Well, I guess they won't know because they won't be able to hear. I'll just send a message to everyone on how to get the audio back. Okay, maybe you can continue, Sandra, with the round, and I'll message the people that are having some difficulties.
Okay. Okay, sounds great. Now, for some reason, it seems as if I lost Mulugeta on my window. So the next on the line after Millicent would be Shafiq. Shafiq, does your audio work? Will you be able to introduce yourself? You might have to unmute yourself. doesn't seem to work for Shafiq. Then maybe Christine. Oh dear, that doesn't seem to work either. Then I have next Evans.
Yeah, I think quite a few people are having difficulties with the audio.
Yeah, maybe everyone who has difficulties, maybe you could actually type into the chat window so that we are aware of it.
Yeah, I just did that.
Then I would have next Fatuma. Okay, that does not work out neither. Jules? Then Liz? Yes, very faint, but we can hear you. Oh dear, I think we lost you again, Liz.
Yeah, I think you were maybe hearing Liz through my mic.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, excellent.
Okay, sorry, I realised I had my internal mic on mute. There we go. So I'm Liz Tarney. I'm the HIV officer at UNHCR headquarters in Geneva, and I last used mobile data collection 2 or 3 years ago when I used to do data collection in Africa for some impact surveys, and I used to use ODK and Survey2Go.
Great, thanks. Next I have Melody.
Hello, everybody. This is Melody. It's wonderful to see all of you. I know most of you. At the moment, I'm back on board with UNHCR, and I'm working with Caroline to update the SENS guidelines. So you will all hear about the SENS version 3 coming out in 2018. And we're hoping to actually organize the webinar in the fall to update you all on that. So thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Melody. Then I have Mary. That doesn't seem to work neither. Then Nazer.
Yes, hi everyone. This is Nasser Mohammed. I'm Senior Regional Nutrition and Food Security Officer for UNHCR in Regional Service Center based in Nairobi.
Great, thank you. And then we have Saidou. Okay. No. I can see Richard on the screen. Richard?
Good afternoon. This is Richard Kakoza. You hear me?
Yes.
This is Richard Kakoza. I've been working in nutrition for a long time, although now I already see nutrition. I'm no longer implementing nutrition in the camp, but I'm glad to be around because I was trained by Sandra in the coding in Nairobi, in Naivasha sometime back. It's good to be here again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. And then last on the list, I have Victoria.
Hi, everyone. I'm the imposter to the group. I'm with the SMART initiative. I know a couple of you already. I was working with Caroline back in Senegal, what was it, 2 years ago almost? And that was the last time I did any type of coding or teaching in mobile data collection. Thanks for inviting me.
Great, thank you. And I see now that Mary is on with the video. Mary, is your audio working now?
I'm chatting with Mary to give her instructions. So hopefully, hopefully she'll be able to get that.
You want to start with the history, maybe, Caroline, and then we see who else managed to get on, and we'll do a short round after that.
Yeah. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone, and it's really good to have you here. Sorry about the audio difficulties, but I'm sure we'll get that sorted out. Now, many of you have already used MDC, and some of you have already been involved in training with mobile data collection. We started the very first trial of mobile data collection in nutrition surveys was in 2010, and then from 2011 we really started working together with Kauto NJ and Sandra, on increasing the use of mobile data collection. If we look, I'm going to try and share this screen with you. Okay. So we've come a really long way from 2010, where we did the very first mobile data collection. We gradually increased as more and more people were taking the technology on board, and we were working towards trying to have it almost systematic. We went from about 37% of all of the surveys, SENS surveys done in 2013 using MDC, to 2016, where we have 95% of the surveys done using MDC. Now, we have done 2 physical trainings, and then included elements of mobile data collection within other SENS trainings, but we can't do that every year for financial reasons. We can't bring everyone together every year to give an update or refreshing course on MDC. So what we wanted to do is try and organize a series of webinars, and today is the first of these webinars, to make you all more comfortable with doing some of the elements and the elements of the coding for MDC and SENS. So, like Melody said, we will be reviewing the SENS SENS modules over the rest of 2017. But the stuff that you'll learn today in terms of coding will be useful, and will still be you'll still be able to use it with the new versions of MDC, of SENS, sorry. So I think that's it. That's enough of an introduction, and Sandra, perhaps we can start.
Yes, sure. I will share my screen. I think somebody in the background should probably mute the mic, because I can hear myself double from resounding. Thanks. I think it's better already. Well, so once more, welcome to our first series of webinars for XLS coding for SENS surveys. our first session, you're actually all going to be our guinea pigs on this, because we have never attempted to teach this via a webinar. So it'll be very interesting for us to see if this is a good format, and we'll be very interested in your feedback on this format as well, so that we can see on whether that's useful to continue. So I just wanted to give you a very, very quick overview of the phases of MDC. Basically, everyone who's been invited to participate today has actually done some sort of mobile data collection before, and usually connected with the SENS. So what's kind of new to you, I mean, you might have actually all seen this screen before. No, I'm sorry. You probably have all seen this screen before during the trainings or on our training material. So most of you are, of course, very familiar with the middle part, ODK Collect. That's what you've used before on Android phones. You will have used ODK Aggregate as well to manage your records, and you will have also use the analysis tools that go with once you have completed the survey, which is usually a PINFO. Some of you do parts of it also on Excel, then of course ENA, and I've put here also the globe of Google Earth and the little word sense mapper, because it's also possible to analyze spatially. That's something that we will be tackling during the series of this webinar as well. Now, on what we are focusing in this webinar is basically the XLS forms. And we will actually be looking into that. I actually get lots of requests for sharing the remote of the computer. Is this actually been requested on purpose, or is this just requested accidentally?
Requested for what, Sandra?
To share the streaming of the computer, but once I do that, I lose the control over the mouse, so I've declined it. But two people have asked me for that. I just wanted to point out that I've declined it because I'll lose control over the mouse if I do it. So, which I don't want at this point. Okay, I think I've actually already lost it. Let me close this. Now I can move back. Okay, good. Now, just brief update on what has been new since 2016. We have thoroughly reviewed the MosquitoNet form because there were some issues in the way the loops were handled. Now, we are not quite there yet, so there will probably be another review on that coming soon. We have included GPS points now, and we have actually produced a document on which can be downloaded from the SENS webpage on when it's useful to do GPS points and include them, and when it's useful to potentially look at the spatial patterns that can come out of using the GPS points as well. We have now systematically carried forward more values into the loops. That's linked to the women and the child form, predominantly so that people can actually do a first cross-check of records or even analyze the records more easily, because they don't actually have to connect the metadata part or the household part with actually the child or the women part to do it. Then very new is actually that we have coded a first version of the demography or mortality form. I think it has been used now in 2 or 3 operations so far. So this is actually a possibility if you're planning to do this. This form is available now as well. We have done some tests on standardization exercise to actually do this with ODK, meaning that the enumerators are not actually writing it down on a piece of paper, but you're actually doing it with a mobile phone. The advantage of that is that you get to analyze the measurements a lot faster. This is still being analyzed and worked out on whether we should actually promote this more systematically, but just for you to let you know that this has actually been done before as well. And now very, very new is that all forms now come with instructions and comments for survey managers or ICT people that are actually interested in adapting them, that would guide them in the way what can be adapted and what shouldn't be adapted, and it's something that we will be looking into just a little bit later. And then also what's now new, very, very new, so brand new that nobody has actually had a survey form with this, is that the camp value and the label is reflected in the data. So you could actually choose to use a value for the camp and still have the description or the label of that camp also reflected in the database, which can help for, you know, easy filtering or something like that if you are looking at the data in Excel. And then to come, as pointed out already, is like a complete revision of the SENS forms. However, all of these things that I had been pointing out, I mean, none of those will actually be changed as such. The new forms will then still come with instructions and comments, and you'd still have the chance of doing the survey with GPS points and so on and so forth. Okay, then just to quickly highlight what more material or new material has been produced. There is a guideline on how to set up phones, since more and more operations are actually purchasing their own phones, and this can be useful to know how to set them up so that they are, you know, easy to use for the SENS surveys. We have produced a new supervisor training PowerPoint, which is also downloadable from the SENS page. And then, as I mentioned, like a mini guideline on when it might be good to use GPS coordinates. Now, a very, very new tool is the SENS mapper. This actually allows you to map out surveys where you've taken household coordinates. This is something that we'll probably look into in the third session of the webinar, just to give you like a sense on how this actually works, and for you to decide whether you want to use that tool. The tool is available, and we can send that out for anyone who's interested in using it. And then we've updated documentation in general, respectively all the tutorials and the tips and tricks. Okay, now I have compiled a few slides on the coding itself, but I'm going to show you on the actual Excel file in a minute. We just thought it's useful to have slides for you as well, because those ones we'll be sending out by email afterwards, especially the ones of you that couldn't connect well or couldn't connect at all, so that you have some of the explanations ready on the slide as well. So basically, this is how a form now opens. You have a tab called Intro and Instructions. Someone has a very noisy background, so maybe you could mute whoever it is, because we can hear your colleagues. So someone has a mic on, and we can hear the colleagues in the background. I think Faustine, it's you. Faustine, can you mute your mic?
Yes.
Because we can hear you the background very well. Okay. And now those of you who've actually opened an XLS form yourself before, you will be familiar with those three tabs, which we put into green background now, called Survey, Choices, and Settings. And those three tabs you need for any XLS form to really work. This new one, this Intro and Instruction, is one that we added, which is giving you some instructions, a little bit of a background on how to change the forms. The good thing about the XLS form is you can actually add tabs and include information like this, and it's actually not impeding the way you can use the form later. Someone has raised a hand. Caroline, you want to check out? Was there like a specific question at this point?
I can't see who raised a hand. I don't see a hand raised.
Okay, I just had it pop up very quickly, and then it was gone again. So I actually don't know who it was, to be honest. Okay. Then looking at the survey tab. Now this is basically where the whole structure of your XLS form is stored. You have the type before, which denotes on what type of input you could be giving to this question. The name, which is basically the column name, like what you have in your resulting database. The column will be named camp or camp label, for instance. And what's actually called label here is basically the description that's on your phone once you open the questionnaire on the phone. Now, what's very, very important is that the name needs to be unique throughout the form, so you cannot actually have a repetition of the same name. And ideally, you've come up with a name which is understandable. Usually, those names are preset to match the type of analysis that you need to do. Because in EpiInfo, you have some pre-written queries, and also for ANA, we normally mimic precisely how the columns are labeled in ANA to allow the analysis in ANA to work well. Okay. And then just an explanation on the type, which is basically the format of the input or the format the question takes. So you have generally text responses, where anyone can enter free text. They're usually called string in the coding. You have integer, which accepts whole numbers only. You have decimals, which accepts decimal numbers, and you can set a range for those, and you can set a range for whole numbers as well. You have select one, list name, and this basically means that you can select one from a list that you have previously set up. This is usually your select one, and then you get your choices that you had input. And select multiple is basically the same, except for that you can select more than one answer. We have very few select multiple in the SENS forms. Then we have the geo point, which basically denotes a GPS location. You have image, which allows you to take a picture. And you can also use notes. This is just displaying then a note on the screen, meaning the user cannot input anything, but he can see some instructions or anything that you'd like to set up. And you have calculate functions, and this we use a lot. We use it to calculate the birth dates, but we also use it to really carry forward just inputs from the household part into the loops of the women or the children as well. So calculate also allows you to take a value that you've inputted somewhere else and input it again at another stage, or concatenate it, or modify it while you input it as well. I'll show you just in a minute on the Excel form as well. Now the list names, those are defined in the Choices tab, which is the second tab, and here's a little extract out of it. Basically, the list name of this one list is called yes, no, and then you have the label yes and no, and then you have the value 1 and 0 being recorded against the label. So name in this instance here is basically the value that's being recorded in the database. So yes, no, absent has been coded to 1, 2, 3. So in the resulting database, all yeses will be 1, all no's will be 2, and so on and so forth. Now this is quite important to know. Now, yeah, I think I'll move to the next slide. Accept. And then we have the settings tab, which was the third one. And here you will actually define the title of your form that will appear when you actually download the form and when you have it on your phone, and the form ID. And this one needs to be unique to be used on aggregate, or basically any server that you might want to use for aggregating the data. You can also set the default language of the form. Now this can be of interest if you are in a multiple setting and you actually rather want to use French than English, then you could change it there, and French will become the default language, meaning the language that will open when enumerators open the application the first time on their phone on ODK. And then the version numbers, which is important for version control, because usually it's very rare that you know precisely immediately how you want to change the form and you just issue one version. Quite often it's a bit of a back and forward to get it right, and then you need to make sure that you keep versioning control of your form so that you always have the most updated form to put on the server and to put on the phones. Okay, and then the last slide before I'll actually show you live on the Excel is basically once you have finished your adaptations on your Excel, you then need to convert it to XML. Why? Because it's actually XML that's being used on the phone. The XLS is really just an easier way for you to code and to change things. When ODK started in the very beginning, everything actually had to be coded straight in XML, which is not very user-friendly. And by now, the fact that you're actually able to use an Excel sheet and to use a preset aspects will make it a lot easier and a lot more user-friendly for people to use it. However, you still need the XML format for the phone and also for the aggregate server, because you cannot load an Excel form straight to aggregate. So there are two ways to do this. One is an offline XLS converter, which we have stored on Dropbox. I had sent that out in the preparation email, but I mean you can also download it after this session. The advantage of this one is that it works. It's a very small application. That will work offline as well. So you could actually be validating your phones when you're not on an internet connection, and when you just want to put them on the phone without actually putting them on a server, or if you really need to work completely offline. It's very straightforward. I'll show that to you how it works, but seriously, it's like very, very straightforward. You just choose the file from the directory. You choose the location for the output file. Usually it suggests the same where your initial file has been stored, and then you run. And now the interesting thing is if you have made any mistakes on your phone, this will actually come up here in the description box. It will actually tell you in which line there is a mistake, so that allows you to go back to your XLS form and check whether you have actually, done any mistake and what you can do to rectify this. There is also an online XLS converter. Oh, sorry, there's a typo. The second one is of course an online one, which is being provided on the Open Data Kit page, which will do the same. Basically, it converts your XLS to an XLM form, and it will also give you some hints in case you have done something wrong. So it do like a small validation of your phone. Okay, and then once you've actually passed this step, you've converted it to a working XML without any errors, you would then load your XML on your aggregate or directly on your phone, and then you can actually test it. Okay, now let me jump out of this one and actually open the Excel file to look at. Are there any questions by now that I should be taking? Sorry. So, are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, this is Melissa. I just have a quick question. Great that you're having the mortality data in SOP, but I just needed to find out in scenarios where recall period keeps running, you have a set of refugees who come in, but definitely like they've not actually been in the camp like 90 days or 93 or 120. Then it becomes complex to have a definite recall period. So with the forms on the phone, would there be possibility to make this adjustment at field level, because it's actually a reality at times in data collection in regions where we're still having refugee influx?
Right. It's a good it's a good point, Millicent.
Yeah, that's the question.
We actually will be tackling this in the next session, because there are several operations that had the request that they want to input when the refugees arrived. So it's always possible to add new questions. It's just for today, as the first session, we are not going to look into how to add new questions. But yours, this would be a case of adding a new question where then enumerators specify the recall or the arrival period, whatever is best, and you actually decide on how you want to do the breakdown. So this is entirely possible.
All right, thanks. That's it.
Okay, great. All right, then just showing you the Excel file. Again, this is the first page with the instructions, and it would be lovely if you actually get back to us if the instructions are not clear or not detailed enough or something, because now is the time that we can adjust this. We haven't actually been sending this out on a global level, so to speak. So you guys are going to be the first ones to see these forms with the instructions, and any feedback from you will be much appreciated. Now, going to the survey tab, you can see we've put like lots of little comments in here as well that should help you to understand which aspects you can change, and also which aspects you potentially should be changing as well. Now, everything that you actually can or actually should be changing is in red and green. Like for instance here, this breakdown, section, zone, block, is always very, very different from each camp to camp, or even each operation to operation. So you certainly would want to adjust this. Also, if I'll just move this comment a little so you can see it better, camp as well, where you will actually have to adjust the choices. Now, so there is, let me go to the choices tab as well. So on the choices tab, you have columns as well that allow you to understand on what you can do. For instance, here you would need for sure to edit the camp list, because we just put in something very, very generic, and you could actually be adjusting this. And maybe I'll just do this for you quickly. I'll just make something up. I'll just put camps together that actually don't go together, just for the sake that you can actually see how it's being done. So I'll just mix some camps in countries that are not even together, coming up with a. All right. And then I do want to use 1, 2, 3 for my analysis. But you could also be using first letters or abbreviations. If you have abbreviations that are used in your context, you can put those ones as well. And here, quite often we adjust this too, but at the end of the day, this really depends on whether you want to retain all the 4 languages. The global SENS form comes in English, French, Arabic, and Swahili, but then in your setting you might only have to retain English, or you might only have to attain French and Arabic or something. So that's kind of your decision as well, meaning you could actually then either delete those that you don't need, or you just don't adjust them as well. That's entirely possible. So this is the choices tab. Now let me go back to the survey tab and show you. Like for instance here, I've now adjusted the camp, so I should be good that end. But then section, I will adjust that too, because in my setting, my section range from 1 to 4. So I'll put 5 here, because one higher up. And then I would need to adjust the constraint message as well. Otherwise, people get confused. They might type in 6, and you have here the number you've typed is outside the expected range 1 to 8. That's very confusing. So you would need to adjust this too, and adjust this to 4. Then, for instance, the zone you will probably need to change as well. In my case, I'll just leave it. Because it's the same. And now this one is quite important, because blocks tend to be, depending on the setting, either numerical or they tend to be abbreviations. So often it's like A1, A2, or B1 or B2. So this is something that you would need to adjust. And in my setting, I'll say my blocks are all numbers as well. So I change this to integer. And then I need to set constraint as well. And I do want to set the constraint 1 to 20. I'll just copy it from top and then put in 21. So now I have 1 to 20. I just need to adjust the constraint message as well. 1 to 20. And now I've basically adjusted those 3. It's also quite possible, if you don't have a section or have a zone, you can actually delete those as well, which is something that we'll also look into in the next session as well. Now this is quite important, because we found there are more and more surveys where there is not necessarily a cluster survey planned, depending on the setup. So what we've done here is that we've put a very impossible condition on this one. So you see here we have the note, if you're using cluster sampling, you must remove the 1 is equal to condition in this cell. Because the 1 is equal to condition means that this field will just not show up for you. So enumerators are just not being able to see this question. And then if you actually need this, you would need to change it. Now in my case, for the example that I'm doing right now, we are not in a cluster setting, so I leave this as it is, but I do want to take a GPS point. I'm sorry, I actually have to decline this, because once I do it, I cannot move easily with my screen anymore. But you will get the file later, and if you want to do annotations later, then that's completely fine. So and here, since I do want to use a GPS point, I actually remove this constraint here, so that the GPS question will actually come up. And for women, this is often the only things that we have to change. The women questionnaire are usually very, very short. So I'm ready to go, except for the last setting, which I haven't changed yet. And here I do need to change the form title, because it's not a global questionnaire anymore now that I've adapted it. But I'll change it to Utopia, as obviously mine is not a real country. You would normally put in your country, and you would or the operation. I mean, if you're just handling one camp in an operation, you could also put the camp name, of course, and then you would want to put the year as well. So this year would be 2017. And since it's my first version, I actually leave the version control as it is. Now I also need to change the form ID because I'll also put the Ethiopia. And yeah, I can leave the rest. I left all the languages. I didn't remove one of the languages, so I leave it as it is as well, and leave the rest as well. So now I need to save it as well, and since it's usually called Global Women, I'll change that as well. I change it to TOE, and leave the rest as it is. Okay. So the next step would be that you actually are loading this through the offline validator. As I said, it's pretty straightforward. You just choose your file, you put that in. I'll leave it at the same location because that's where I want to have it, and I run it. And I obviously didn't make any mistake. It actually converted it immediately to an XML file. And now to be able to make use of it, I'll actually load it to aggregate. And I usually have problems in running my VM when I'm on a proper internet connection because of firewall constraints. So I'm loading it to the online app spot. For those of you that would rather load it to the online app spot as well, there are some instructions on the PowerPoint for this. And for the rest of you, I've actually set up the VM. Then you could actually be using just the VM that you're used to. So let me move to the app spot, and I need to log in. Okay. So this form management, just add a new form. I choose the file, so this is pretty much like it would be on your VM as well. Then I choose my XML file. I open it. I upload. Okay, successfully uploaded. And now I could be inputting the URL in my ODK and actually download the form from the URL as well. Okay, so this is basically the demo so far. Are there any questions at this point? Maybe let me go back to this, because then I can see if people have actually... Oh, no, because I'm sharing my screen, I've actually lost the chat window somehow. Oh, there it is, okay. So any questions, any comments, any things? You can also chat if you're not able to use your audio. Okay, it doesn't seem like it. Then maybe I'll give you an overview of the exercise we planned and the instructions, which will be sent out after the webinar. So basically, let me go from on full screen so it's easier to see. So basically, the first exercise, the light exercise, will be to adapt the food security questionnaire. And you should be assuming that you do this for your current operation. And if you're currently not in the field, then the last one where you've done a deployment as a SENS survey manager. You would then need to adjust, obviously, the camps. You would need to adjust section, block, zone, and all the ranges and the constraints related to it. You are planning a cluster survey with up to 45 clusters. You will also be taking a GPS point for all of the households. And you're planning to conduct the survey in August this year. And you will need to adjust the food groups as in your current and last setting. So this is basically the framework for how you're gonna adjust the food security form. Oops. And no. I are not just the reviews. And then after you've done this, you would actually need to deploy your form. That means you are going to validate your form either with the offline XLS converter or with the online converter. This will the URLs for downloading will be in your instruction Word document that you're gonna receive by email. You will then load it on ODK, either the VM, if you have a VM working your end, or online. If you would like to have a VM working your end and you have difficulties in getting it to work, just get in touch with us. It sometimes can be a little tricky depending on your Windows version and whether you have like full admin rights and things to make the VM work. So, but if you will be doing a survey soon and you already know that you're going to use the computer that you're with right now, then it actually makes sense to use the exercise to set it up while you're at it as well. Oh, sorry, no, that's actually, I didn't want to go up. Oh. No. Oh no, now I lost the control. Oh no, oh no. Okay. While we wait for PowerPoint to actually regain control. Any questions at this point?
Hi, Sandra. This is Victoria. So you'll be sending the Excel file to us, and then we'll practice with that Excel file, the global women.
You will actually get the food security as a exercise. If you would want the global women just to see how it looks like, I can send that out as well, but it's not necessarily part of the exercise.
Okay, great. Sorry, thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. So here, that was the... Yeah?
Millicent, I have a question. Usually when you send like different surveys from different camps to the ODK like aggregates, it imports like everything. So like if you're having so many camps to do the survey, is there a way that technology can work out so that when you import, then you only import files for that particular camp? Because you import and you have to sort out. I'm just thinking if you've made a mistake with the code, then it will actually read a different camp. I'll give an example. Like we have Kule and Cherkidi. So for instance, if the interviewer coded Cherkidi instead of Kule, when you send the file, then it will import as Kule and not Cherkidi. So I don't know if something is going on to try and change this, or we just have to be accurate with the codes for for the camp things. Yeah.
Right. There are actually two options for this. One you've already pointed out that you have to have like a very rigorous survey or supervisor system in place so that people don't make the mistakes. But the other option is if for some reason you really need to have all the camps separate because the analysis that you're going to do or what the results that you're going to expect or also the way you have to run the logistics don't make it actually easy to have all the camps together in one form, it's entirely possible to set up a form for each and every camp. We have had settings where we have done this, and that means that you will then send out the enumerators with the respective camp forms, so they actually cannot really make any mistakes on this. But usually, because it actually means that you have to author a lot more forms than you would if you have all your camps combined in one form. We usually only recommend this if, for instance, you have very diverse settings. So you might actually have questions that you would like to include in one camp that actually shouldn't necessarily be asked in the other camp. Or if you do an analysis where you would like to have it completely separate because you're actually not looking at the same aspects, then it's possible to do that as well, just to have a separate forms for each and every camp. You would then use the abbreviation of the camp in the unique ID and in the settings, and you would then set it up for each and every camp. I think you're muted, Millicent. I can't hear you.
Sorry, it means in the software development we don't have currently provisions. Sorry, to factor this in. So you either have to do the multiples or have the training that is thorough.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Short answer is yes.
Okay.
There's of course
nice to have something.
There's ways to correct, of course, depending on how your general setting is. There is of course ways to correct it afterwards, but it's not very straightforward. The easiest is certainly that you either make it very rigorous in the way that the people are trained in how to enter, or you use separate forms for each camp.
Okay, this is clear. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions at this point? Okay. Then I would just go back to the slide when PowerPoint was leaving me. Oh dear. It seems to be leaving again. Okay, I see your question, Jules. We basically looked into ways on how we can make it easy so that people can actually adjust conditions based on their local settings. And we found that it's a lot harder to add questions later or delete them than actually just removing a condition. And 1 = 2 is an impossible condition. So a question that's been targeted with this is just not going to show up. So this means if this condition doesn't apply, you don't have to do anything with this question. And if this question actually does apply, then you just delete the 1 = 2. And this was kind of our way to make it very easy for the end user to not make mistakes, because the second you're actually adding things or you're deleting, it actually might affect the whole form structure. And especially for clusters, this is critical because clusters is actually a question that's being asked in the child questionnaire in the loop as well, because Anna would like to have a value for that. And usually what we do, if there is no cluster, that the form is actually calculating and is inputting 1. So all the children are in cluster number 1 in case that there is no cluster survey. But Anna is expecting a value there. And so if you remove the cluster question and you delete it completely, it would actually mean that the calculation which is set up in the child file is not working well, and that means that someone else would also need to adapt that algorithm or that calculation in the child part to work, and that's again an additional step people have to think of, and that's why we went this way to do it. I think I'm just not going into full view anymore for my PowerPoint, as it seems that the full view is not working. Well, you're welcome, Jules. Thank you. So
hello,
basically,
Sandra.
Yes.
Hello. So I'm sorry. Were you done answering the question from Jules?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Okay. I was wondering, and I do not see the questions that participants are sending. I was wondering if we still have time, and because we allocated about another 25 minutes to the webinar, if we have time and if there are other participants interested, could we all receive the women questionnaire, and could you go over the demonstration again, and then we could do it with you on our computer at the same time. I don't know if that's feasible or there's still time, but it would personally help me to do it as an exercise. So just letting other participants say what they think.
Okay. We can certainly do that. I have two more slides just on the instructions for the exercise, which I would probably go through, but afterwards we can certainly make use of the time that we have. If people would like to go through it again, or also have generally more questions, we could all take them.
Okay, so in the
so
meantime,
in order.
Sorry, Sandra. In the meantime, I will send the women's file to the participants list by email while you're going through these next two.
I'd actually I think it would be better to send it as a package. Caroline, would that be okay? Because I think I've done a slight change on it, so it might be better if I send it as a package, or I give it to you and you send it as a package after the webinar. Oh, okay. Sorry, you meant for people to be following along. Sorry, yes. I'm a bit sick. Yes. You know what? I'll just yeah, good point. Let me just send it to you. If I cannot, I don't think I can push it through on the WebEx, can I? Then I'll try and push it through on Skype. Okay. Would that work?
Yep, that would work. And then I'll send it by email.
Okay. Then let me do that. Up. Okay.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Then I think we're stuck at that step to load it to ODK aggregate, and then the next step would be that you actually download the XML form on your Android phone, ideally if you set up aggregate, else you can also copy it from your computer on your Android phone just to test it. And then I'd like you to actually fill 3 records just to, see how it panned out, your adapted form, and then sync it back to aggregate. And if you're using without aggregate, then just save them. And then you download the records as CSV files. And for this, you would actually should be using Briefcase. In theory, for the food security, Briefcase is not totally necessary, but I think it's good practice to use Briefcase because for all the other forms, you actually do need Briefcase. And if you're again using it without ODK aggregate, you could be just copying the ODK directory of your phone, and then you need to use Briefcase by navigating to the ODK directory on your phone. If you need more assistance with that, then just ping us, and we'll be able to help you. And then afterwards, you should be submitting the CSV files together with your adapted XLS form to myself and also to Francis. Both of the emails are in this PowerPoint, but they're also on your Word instructions for you to use. Melody just said that if I could outline the SENS tools from the webpage. It depends on you basically how much you still have it in your muscles to use ODK, whether you actually need to use the documentation from the website or not. Certainly documentation on the website that will help you are the tutorials how to set up or run the server, plus how to download the data, because it will actually give you screenshots on how to use Briefcase, and also the URL on where you can download Briefcase, which is also on the general Open Data Kit site, where you can also get Collect in case you don't have ODK Collect on your phone yet, and where you could be using the online XLS converter as well. So this is kind of all there. Okay, and I think I had one other question. Yeah, there was one remark to the question that Millicent had. I probably had not fully understood, Millicent. Was your question that you want to download data filtered, or was it to upload data filtered? Because it's possible to set filtered, to set a filter on your downloads from aggregate.
Not that, to download data filtered, and I know you can filter from, but just to make it more, in case there are those errors, then you're not using data or mixing data from a camp to the other. That's it.
Okay, yeah, because it is possible to filter the data sets before you download them as well, but then that's not actually going to help you, because if the error is already in the data set, then the filtering is not going to help you. But just for you to know that it's also that's also possible to do. Okay, great. Then here is on the last slide, there's the instructions if you actually want to try this by accessing the online aggregate AppSpot with the login and the password. With this login and the password, you have access up until form management, which you will need to upload your own form and then send the data to it and download the data as well. It does, of course, mean that actually if we have two survey managers that have worked together and you fill out the form precisely the same, you will have a conflict because, as I said before, you will have to have different IDs for a form to appear. But usually, unless you have been working as a binôme somewhere, you should not actually run into that issue because all of you will use different countries or will use different years well to set it up. And so normally the ID should be different. Okay, great. Then yes, we do have time still and ready for the questions, all ready to go through the demo together with you as Melody had suggested. Caroline, have you sent out the?
I have. I've sent the file out to the mailing list, but I think Saidu had a question as well. Saidu, can you maybe ask your question to Sandra? It was about the the clusters.
Yeah.
About the cluster in the data entry form.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Saidu.
Yes. Hello. Hello.
Saidu, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yes, I hear you. Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, Saidu, you had a question?
Yes, my question is we have some problems because we don't have the section cluster in after downloading the data entry in vocational women.
This means you are not using a cluster survey, or?
After data entry in women questionnaire.
Ah, okay. Yes, then that's probably this is probably then that you have an older version of the SENS survey, I would assume. Let me open the women form once more. You mean that you're actually missing this one, calculate cluster G, this one you're missing in your form? Saidu, you're still there? Can you confirm? Are you basically missing what I've highlighted on the screen right now, which is line 19, where I have the cluster in the women loop. The blue is the women loop.
Okay.
Is that what is missing in yours? Usually this should not be missing because we've changed it in 2016. However, depending on when you've done the survey in 2016 or whether your older forms have been recycled, it's possible that this field, the cluster G, and potentially even the women camp and the serve date are not might not actually be in yours if it's an older form, because those were changes that we've done in 2016. But depending on when your survey went ahead, you might not actually have those in your own form. Is that answering your question?
Saidu, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's actually quite important when you do start a new survey, even if you're not changing. Yes.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Maybe let me point this out. It's actually quite important if you do start. Okay. Okay. Great. just as a general. Okay. Good. I think for everyone, just as a general remark, if you're actually recycling forms the year before, because you didn't have many changes, it does actually make sense to quickly verify that there have not been many changes on the global forms instead, because else you might lose out on things like this that have been actually changed based on user feedback or based on new ways of coding being available.
Congo crisis in a nutshell.
Okay.
Since 1996, over 6 million people
then,
have...
oh, there's some video coming. Oh, so someone has a background noise again.
Richard, could you put your mic on mute, please?
Okay. So then I would actually be reopening the Global Women Forum. Nope, I'll make it a bit smaller now. And does everyone have it open? So does everyone who actually wants to? Okay, Caroline says yes. Excellent. So I started out with changing those three things. Well, actually, first the camp, which I done on the choices. But I mean, let's do these three first, because those ones always have to be adapted. It's very rare that you will actually have a setting where this will actually be precisely as we have put it in the global questionnaire as an example, basically. So, and for the demo that I had been doing, I had assumed that I have section number 1 to 4, which means that I would need to change this. And it's always exclusive, so I actually have to put it to 5 if I want to make sure that 4 is included. Basically, the range goes to 1 to 4, and that means you actually put the 0 and the 5. Okay, so this had been changing, but once I've actually changed the constraint, I should also be adjusting the constraint message, because else it will be very confusing for the enumerators if they try and input a number that according to constraint message is actually possible, but it's not because you have coded it differently. So this one you would need to adapt then as well and set it to 1 to 4. Is everyone with me? Maybe you just type in yes on the chat or something, so I know that I can actually move on. Okay. Then on the zone number, for the sake of this exercise, I had actually not changed anything, but I mean we can change it now. Let's assume it's like 10 zones, so I'll actually put that to 11. And then I need to change again the constraint message as well. I'll set that 1 to 10. Okay. And this was pretty straightforward, as we've just done it in the step before as well. Now for the block, I had assumed that my block is in fact not letters or letters and numbers or combination of it, but that the blocks are numerical as well. So here I've actually been changing the type to integer. I had actually been changing the type to integer. And
could you mute, please, Ethel? Ethel, could you mute? Thank you.
Okay, and then I just because it's easier than retyping it all out, I copied this down and then I adjusted it, and I had said I want to allow for 20 blocks, so I changed this to 21 and this one to 20. Okay, everyone with me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then for the sake of changing this, we could also now say, okay, we do want to actually allow for clusters. So then I need to remove this 1 equals 2 for the question to actually appear on my screen. And I'll then also need to set the clusters. So I'll copy this as well. And
just a quick question, Sandra, on this, and it might be a nitty-gritty, but do we include, the 3 or 4 reserve clusters at this point in time? Because then I imagine if you cannot access a number of clusters, then you'd have to visit your reserve clusters, so you already have to increase those numbers. So say we have to visit 44, then here we would put in the constraint 47 or 48?
Yes. It would be better to include the reserve clusters, because
Okay.
if you don't, then you actually not. Then you would need to change the form throughout while the survey is actually ongoing, which would not be very good and would result in 2 different data sets. So unless you really want the reserve cluster data set to be separate and in a new form, I would actually include the reserve cluster already.
Okay, great, thank you.
So let's use your example. You said 48, right?
Yes, 48.
Then let's put 48. No, wait, 48 you wanted to allow, then we have to put 49. And 48 here. Okay. Then we need to still adapt our camp. I mean, usually there's not much more to adapt on the women. I mean, you could decide not to go for GPS, in which case I'll leave it. So maybe let's leave it now in the current setting. You actually don't want to use the GPS, so leave the condition in. And here there's usually not much to be changed, in fact, on the women questionnaire. So then let's move to the Choices tab. And here you need to adjust your camps. And I right now only want to use 1 camp. I'm only doing 1 camp. So I'm actually using surgery. I'll copy it over. And then I'll remove the rest. Yep. I'm just doing it slightly differently before, so that's not that's not precisely the same. But I mean, please feel free to adjust this to your liking. Okay, and then the last step, you'd actually need to change the form title and the form ID. And here I'll put now Jordan, because Satari is in Jordan. And I'll put abbreviation Jordan in there. I'm retaining all the languages for now, so I'll leave it in. And since this is my first form, I just leave the version as it is now. If I have a second version of it, then I would actually increase the version numbers. Okay, everyone with me?
So just a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you show? So suppose in the questionnaire we have a number of variables that require some.
Right. I didn't understand you very well, George.
Yes. Yes or no variables. So do we include all?
Oh dear, I actually can't understand your question. There's a bit of background noise, so maybe some other people should be muting, and then if not, then maybe type it in. Would that be possible?
Richard, could you mute, please, so we can hear George?
Oh, do I mute from here? It's already muted. So the question is, it's just a general example. I mean, let's say suppose we have we want a list. Let's say sex, male or female. In this case, the camera will be one camera. Let's say yes or no questions. So let's say we have a list of choices where you need to make. Do we need to type all these things?
I'm very sorry, George. I heard something about the list and yes or no, but that was basically it. Would you mind maybe typing it quickly?
Okay. So
your audio starts well, but then it fades immediately.
So okay, I send that an email or where do I type?
No, you can just type it in the chat window of the WebEx, and then I can answer it immediately.
Okay.
You've found the thing on the chat. If you click on it, then you're able to send a question.
Okay. What's that?
Are you typing, George?
Yes, I'm typing.
Okay. In the meantime, we could be taking another question until George has finished typing.
I hope you've received it, isn't it?
I have not, but maybe you send it to Caroline, so maybe Caroline can actually read it out.
It is being sent to Caroline. Oh, I should be okay.
Else Caroline can read out.
Yeah, it's fine, George. I'll read it out. So George's message, his question is, in a questionnaire, we may have a number of variables requiring choices. For example, sex equals male or female. Camp equals 1 or 2 or 3. So can we have this in one tab?
It usually is in one tab. It's all stored in choices. This is basically your list name. It's just that the one for the women questionnaire is very short, since there's really only yes and no and consent and camp. I can maybe open another. Let me open the child one briefly, because there the list is longer. So, but not considerably longer, to be honest. Where you can actually see. Except this doesn't actually remove me. So I mean, here you have basically a longer list. So it's all in one tab really, called choices. And this list name here is then actually being referenced. For some reason, I don't seem to be able to access this. Let me go back to the women. No. This list name is then actually referenced here.
This list name is then actually referenced here. This list name is then actually.
Oh dear, someone needs to mute, please. Okay, great. So the list name, for instance, in the women here would be called const. Select one is the type, and then const. And if I then actually go into my choices, I see const here, which is the consent variable, and it says yes, no, absent with the values 1, 2, 3. Is this answering your question?
Yes, it's now answering the question.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Caroline, you still there?
I'm still here, yep.
Okay, it seems that I lost the screen share. Then maybe I'll just go back. Okay. So the next step, or the last step, would be that you actually need to save the file with a different name, because currently it's still called global and it's no longer global. So I'm changing it in my case to Jordan, or Joe for Jordan, and then I save it, and then I have my form adjusted. And then the next step will be to validate it through the online or the offline XLS. Is that something you would like to go through as well? Do we still have time, or shall we leave it at this?
Because I think due to network challenges here, I did see previously, I don't know whether you have a bit of time so that you can show it.
Sure, I can do that. The question is just, shall I be showing the online one, or shall I be showing the offline one once more again? I'm happy with either. You just let me know.
Sandra, just to flag, we have 10 minutes, and then I think it may cut out. It may stay longer, but it may cut out.
Okay. Okay. Why don't I show you the online converter very briefly, because the offline I've shown before, and since Caroline is actually recording the session, so anyone who'd like to see how I've done it before on the offline can actually just go back to that and look at the recording. How about that?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, so I'll open this one. Here I've been playing around just to see whether the XLS form can also validate and can actually detect errors, and it can. So but with the current file that I've been doing, hopefully I don't have any error. So I'll take the Jordan Women XLS, which I've just been completing. I load it. I submit. Okay, so I didn't get an error, so that's perfect. So I can download it. And now the interesting thing about the online one is actually it does allow you to preview it. If you, for those of you that actually don't have a phone and you want to have a quick look, you can actually open this. I have not tried it before, but yeah, it works well. On these online web forms, not all of the calculations and things work precisely the way they're supposed to do. But if it's really just for getting a quick overview on how the questionnaire is structured, and whether your section numbers, if I now type in 6, it shouldn't allow it. Yeah, then you can actually, just quickly test this. This should block. I think we set to 20, so if I type 22, it shouldn't work. Yes. So you can actually use them to quickly check and fill. I mean, this is not really not going anywhere. This is really just to validate that the questionnaire is the way you've actually wanted it, because this is not connected to an aggregate or an online storage. This is really just to test the form. Okay, great. Then any more questions at this point?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. You're most welcome. Maybe the important thing I should be pointing out is that we'd like you to send the exercises back by the 8th of June, because we'd like to give each and every one of you individual feedback. And the next session is on the 13th of June. Again, 1 o'clock Geneva time.
Thank you.
So Sandra, we will be sending the package out to everyone.
That's right. Yes.
With the exercises and the instructions for the exercises, and we'll do that either this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. Well, Sandra, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody who attended. Yep, looking forward to the next step, the next stage, and seeing you all back here on the 13th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Also ich bin jetzt nicht so,